Okay, we're ready to begin? Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to the monthly meeting. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Plesky?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Mr. Belmont and Mr. Lunar are not present this evening. We have a couple of announcements. The January 22nd work session will outline programmatic changes and continuum of special services. This year's budget work session is on Tuesday, March 4th. I need an approval of the minutes. Ms. Aragona, second. Mr. Pulaski, all in favor? Okay, thank you. The Art Gallery, Mr. Kunz. Thank you.
The Burns-Siderman Gallery is proud to present the January exhibition featuring the dynamic sports photography of Aiden Pearsall and Luke Pignataro. Aiden and Luke are key members of Lynbrook High School's Sports Media Club, capturing the excitement, intensity, and camaraderie of LHS's biggest sporting events. Sports photography is a growing field driven by the increasing influence of sports media in showcasing athletic talent, school spirit, and the vibrant energy of the sports world. This exhibit highlights scenes from games and practices across some of our fall and winter sports, celebrating the artistry of the lens in freezing moments of action and emotion. When the exhibit concludes, 6 larger frame pieces from the collection will remain on display in the ramp leading down to the gym corridor. These pieces will be rotated seasonally, ensuring ongoing recognition of the incredible work produced by LHS's budding sports photographers. We invite the Lynbrook community to visit the gallery, support our student artists, and experience the thrill of sports through their eyes. Don't miss the opportunity to see this intersection of art and athletics come to life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kunz. Moving on to report from trustees, the policy committee. Mr. Murray?
Yeah, so we have a number of first readings tonight of policies that we've updated. Most of the updates are to keep our policies in line with changes to either state or federal law. There's one policy that is a change in a policy. The student assessment policy is replacing the testing programs policy, whereas the testing programs policy used to just literally list tests that we gave students, standardized tests that I don't even know exist anymore. We changed it instead to be a philosophy on assessment, and it goes into the reasons for and different types of assessments that belong in our classrooms. And everything else is really just to bring our policies up in line with the law.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Our BOCES budget liaison, since Mr. Lunar is not here tonight, we're going to get a report on this at next month's meeting. DEI liaison, Mrs. Kelly.
Hello. So the DEI committee met on January 2nd, first day back. The meeting began with a viewing of Equity, Excellence, and Access, which was a video created by the New York State Education Department, in which students explained that learning becomes possible and joyful when they are seen, heard, and valued for who they are. Next, information was shared regarding recent hiring processes and the impact of the diversity of our certified staff. Each building provided updates regarding the students sharing with their peers of the variety of holidays that were celebrated by their families during the month of December, as well as upcoming plans for Lunar New Year, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and a host of cultural fairs. Finally, there was a significant discussion regarding the calendar and how religious holidays are noted. The next DEI council meeting is scheduled for March the 6th.
Thank you, Mrs. Kelly. On to PTA liaison, Ms. Aragona.
Yes, PTA Council is getting excited for Founders Day. They hope everybody can join them Monday, February 10th at 7 p.m. Founders Day is a way to celebrate individuals who have made a difference in our schools and our community. They're also looking forward to meeting with us on January 22nd.
Thank you, Mrs. Aragona. Any other reports from trustees?
Just the Facilities Committee is going to be meeting again this coming Friday to do another walkthrough of the different areas that, so we can help prioritize our capital investments for the next couple of years.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Okay, seeing no other reports, we're going to move on to old business. First thing is a student board member. So we've been having an ongoing discussion regarding the requirement for a student board member. And last month, Mr. Cornicello's AP government class presented their ideas to us on how to fairly select a representative. And the board had asked if they would recommend the criteria and an application for the board to review. So we invite them to come up and share their ideas now.
All right, thank you very much. These four have been working incredibly hard for the application that you're going to see before you. I have to shout out a couple people. Mr. Sorosi has helped us out tremendously. Mr. Finder has helped us out. Mr. Benedetto, Mrs. Lancaster are going to help out. You'll hear more from the students about their role in this application process, but I'd love to turn it over to the students who have been working incredibly hard for this.
Good evening. So to remind you of what we went over last time we were here, so our first step of our process would be to go into the 10th grade social studies classes and introduce them to this position and explain to them and tell them how rigorous this position is. And then also in the beginning of March, we will allow them to get their applications from Mr. Finder's room in order for it to be totally blind to the senior government classes and to Mr. Cornicello. And Kelsey will explain more about that.
So once the students pick up their applications, what's going to happen is, as you can see on the copy that you have, the first page has all of the roles, responsibilities, requirements, overview, and everything. And on the back of that page, the student's going to put their name, phone number, and then their guidance counselor. So when Mr. Finder receives the application, he's going to split this paper, and he's going to keep the page with their the name, all their information. He's going to assign each student an application number after they leave the room, so the student doesn't even know what application there is, where they don't know they're number 3 in whichever way. So after that happens, the papers, the application questions are going to be handed to the AP government classes, as well as Mr. Cornicello, and we're going to be able to read and evaluate them without knowing who the student is, and then after that's done, Mr. Finder will just let us know what application number corresponds with what student, so we can go forward with the interview process.
Okay, now in regards to application questions, so you can flip to your second page in the packet that we gave you. We left these vague so that the students could elaborate and explain their vision for the future of our school and to represent the students effectively. For example, I had suggested a question that would be to elaborate on past leadership roles and describe what you learned in this position and how it could relate to this new position as a student board of ed representative. But then we realized that this could lead to bias, because if you write on your leadership roles that you were a key club president, people might know that's you. So we said that would be best to save for the interview process.
So then after we narrow it down to a couple of students, they're going to come up in front of a panel of us 5, I believe Mr. Sorosi, Miss Lancaster, and Mr. Benedetto. So they'll sit in front of us and we'll ask them a couple of questions to just see a little bit more about the students. And that's really it for right now. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Such an impressive process that you've done such a wonderful job of this.
Thank you.
I want to turn it over to the board now so we can decide our next steps. I don't know if we want to decide this today or wait, since there are 2 members missing, if we want to hold off, but any thoughts?
I personally think it looks very good. I think they've covered all avenues, and it was a very nice job, guys, and Mr. Cornicello. I don't know how Mr. Belmont and Mr. Luna feel about it, so maybe we table it until they're here. But I doubt there are going to be any objections to it. So if you guys feel strongly about putting it through now, I'm okay with that.
Well, I actually don't think we can, because this has to be a policy, so that's going to have to go to committee, then first read, second read, and we can make the policy.
So it's got to go through the policy committee first?
I believe so, unless it's not an emergency policy.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would, yes. All right, so do we vote to send it to the
But,
policy
but
committee?
I
or-
think it's appropriate for the conversation that happens now to guide the policy committee. Two of the three members of the policy committee are here tonight, and so we would definitely take that feedback as we work to draft a policy that would then have to go before the full board for approval anyway. I did have one question for you guys that you didn't address in your presentation, which was really well done, by the way. I really appreciate the open-endedness of the questions, and just at a quick glance of them right now, I do think it creates rigor. Like, you're not going to just do this because it's a popular, like, someone has to really do a lot of work to even submit this application. I think that's really important, and I appreciate that. Can you tell me a little bit more about the rubric and how it was developed and how you'd use it in the process? Because that, to me, is the way that we keep this as objective as possible.
Yeah, so when the AP Gov students are reading over all the applications, they'll get this when they read over it. And this basically just gives them an easier way for them to be able to score the students and decide, so we can narrow it down to a certain amount of students that will end up going in front of the panel. And I mean, we tried to make it as simple as possible for the AP Gov students so they could really make a clear understanding of like what they, like just basically what they wrote and everything, so we can come down to narrow it down to a certain amount of students.
And I think another step, which doesn't necessarily have to happen in order for us to decide about the process or the policy, but those interview questions, just from an HR equity perspective, we just make sure that when you're developing those, that you're asking more or less the same questions of each candidate. You can follow them down a road if they take you down a road, but that, we have as much equity in the interview process as you've clearly built into the application process.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we will.
Just regarding the review process, the written application will be reviewed by the panel or each interview by one person?
I think that these will be reviewed by the AP Gov students. Yeah, AP Gov students.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so more than one person will review each?
A lot of students will be, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And if I could also just add one amazing job, and I love that you took out the identifiers, where if someone is captain of the JV boys soccer team or girls soccer team, right away you know who it is. So I appreciate that. The one thing I thought of, and it's more for the AP government students, you may want to give word count suggestions for answers so that you don't have some very industrious, engaged sophomore give you 10,000 words on the role of the Board of Education in a school district.
Yeah, I think she said.
Katie had mentioned that, and I said, oh, we don't have to give a guidance.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
On to, back to old business regionalization. So at our last meeting, the board agreed to adopt a resolution to opt out of participating in the state's regionalization plan, and we will adopt that resolution tonight and send official notice to the New York State Education Department. So I'm going to read that resolution now, 2501G1, the resolution on opt-out. Whereas on December 9th, 2024 and December 10th, 2024, the New York State Board of Regents adopted the final rule adding Part 124 and Subpart 124-2 to Subchapter E of the Regulations of the Commissioner of Education relating to regionalization plans, the rule, and whereas, according to New York State Ed, the rule will become effective as of December 24th, 2024, and whereas the rule requires school districts to participate in the regionalization planning process, including, among other things, submitting a strength and needs tool on a form prescribed by the commissioner and convening with district superintendents and stakeholders, and whereas the rule authorizes school districts to elect not to participate in the development of a regionalization plan, and if it so elects, the superintendent shall communicate the district's election in writing to SED, and whereas the superintendent has consulted with the Board of Education, and the Board of Education wishes to formally opt out of participation in the development of the regionalization plan, Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lynbrook Union Free School District hereby elects not to participate in the development of a regionalization plan, and
Be it further resolved that the Board of Education elects not to submit the Strength and Needs tool to SED or engage in any regionalization planning or regionalization implementation. And be it further resolved that the superintendent is authorized to send a notice to SED setting forth the Board of Education's election to opt out of the development of a regionalization plan and reserving all of the school district's rights and remedies. May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2501 G1? Mr. Murray, second. Ms. Zaragona, all in favor? Thank you. Foundation aid, Dr. Lynch?
So we're kind of in a waiting period now. So we're at the part. This is the most frustrating part of the development of the budget process, where we're starting to get an idea of what our expenses will be, but we don't really know what our revenue will be because we don't know what the state's going to put on the table. So right now, the governor is developing her proposal, and then that proposal will come out of her office on or about January 20th. That's generally when that happens. Then what will happen after that, the preliminary state aid runs will go, and then Mr. Press will start to get to work with those runs to start to establish a better idea of what our revenue will be. That then becomes the time for this body to work, because that is not final yet. That is the executive proposal. Our legislators still have a lot to say when it comes to that. So that's where we will have some definite ideas from you. I know we've been discussing some things that if they took the Rockefeller report seriously and they started to do some things like regional costs, so adopt a regional cost index that is about Lynbrook and about Nassau County, that would be helpful for the district. If they were to give higher aid for our actual poverty rate rather than the fake poverty rate that they've been using for 20 years, that would be effective. If they started to tier support in aid for E&L teachers so that the children in most need are receiving more money than those in less need, that would be helpful for our district. If they developed a mechanism to better function with in-district programs that could generate more aid on special education, so that when we are not sending kids to other district or BOCES, we can generate a better course of aid by keeping the kids home. That would help the district. I will be brutally honest that I don't necessarily see any of that coming out of Albany, but our voices need to be heard, and you never know. So that's kind of where we're at.
To make our voices heard more, is there anything we could do?
So I think, the letters are always a good idea, so we will definitely, everything, I saw some of PTA members writing down everything said, we'll put that into a nice little talking points thing, because we're kind of used to that, so we'll put some talking points to you. And really, I think visiting legislators' offices is the big one. So you don't have to go to Albany. Their offices are right here. So we can go right to their offices and talk to them and urge them to act. And then also, I think some of the ideas you had at our last session, if we, I think many districts in our area are going to have serious similar concerns, so that if we had joint PTAs from Rockville Center, East Rockaway, and the Valley Streams go together to the same legislators, they start to realize that we're a more vocal voice.
I know we usually do presentations at all the PTA meetings later in the year, but maybe this is something that we now go to, make it a point to go to the PTA meetings and discuss that we need their help in writing letters. And, you know, if we could possibly push that out and work with the PTA to put in their weekly updates and with these exact bullet points, so we can, you know, even if we make a form letter that people can send if they get flooded and faxed, you know, that might be helpful.
Sure. That's all on the on foundation aid.
Thank you. There's no new business, so on to the superintendent's report.
So the big news when it comes to the board goals is that we've kind of accelerated our plan when it comes to the profile of the OWL, attacking the writing plank. So we are having an enormous amount of teachers signed up for the writing revolution. We're partnering with the Lynbrook Teachers Center, and we see that there's could be really good things happening from there. So I thank Mrs. Kirby for her work, Dr. Blekas for his work, Mr. McDermott's been helping us out on all of that, Mrs. Curran. So we thank you for all of that, and our partnership with the LTA and the Teachers Center is always welcome. Kindergarten registration is underway. So online registration began on December the 20th. On-site will be coming in the upcoming weeks. West End will be on January 14th and January 16th. Marion Street will be on, I think I wrote down, January 21st and January 23rd. And Waverly Park will be on January 28th and January 30th. We had the information night on Monday during the snow. So that was where that's going with kindergarten registration. And I might as well go into universal pre-kindergarten. As always, the program is funded by the state of New York, so we will be waiting for those aid runs to find out what what money and what obligations that the state is putting on us. So we'll be then developing, much like it's been happening the last couple of years. We'll continue our partnerships. We'll have a lottery. The last couple of years, we've not needed a lottery because everyone who is in the program was able to get to the program. It has more to do with site selection. So that will be coming up at the timeline, March, thereabouts.
Just a quick question there, because I do know the state provides $5,400 per student. Have we had to consider supplementing that from our general fund at this point with our partners?
We have not. So I continue on to, so tonight the Board of Education adopts the calendar. I heard people like the day before Thanksgiving being off. I heard that kind of went over pretty well. So as I said last year, we can't promise it every year, so I'm going to say that. But the calendar that the board is adopting tonight is almost a carbon copy of the calendar that we went through this year. We do apologize. In an early draft, we left some holidays off, but that's all been rectified, and we have that out, and it's ready for adoption. And we look forward to next year already. And then Dr. Balakas, if we could take the curriculum grants.
Thank you, Dr. Lynch. Each year, the Lynbrook Union Free School District receives federal funding to support our students and programs. The annual grants through Titles 1, 2, and 4 continue to support pupil personnel and professional development throughout the district, as well as provide support for homeless students. Title III continues to support our English as a new language teachers and our English language learners as part of the Nassau BOCES Consortium. I'd be remiss if I didn't share some exciting news that 3 of our staff members were actually selected by BOCES to be involved in their premier event of the season. So Mrs. Gordon, Mrs. Lamontia, and Mr. Wolf were selected to present at the Long Island Teacher Institute in March. Their presentations will be regarding practical E&L strategies for secondary ELA classrooms and thematic units for E&L in special education classrooms. Congrats to those teachers. Thank you.
And capital projects, Mr. Press?
We continue to basically be in a holding period right now. We submitted the plans to the architect, and those plans are in the process of being submitted to New York State for review. We are, as we had discussed previously, going to use the third-party review process, which should speed up the approval from the state, but at this point we are awaiting word on approval of those plans, so we're kind of in a holding pattern. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Press. And before I hand it back to you, I do want to late breaking news. Right before we came into the meeting, we got notification that Lynbrook High School has a Regeneron finalist. So Mr. Eric Riley is one of 300 people that are going for the very high honor of that Regeneron finalist. So we literally didn't have time to put anything together tonight, but that is very big news for Lynbrook High School. So congratulations, Mrs. McCauley, to Mr. Vasalico, to all our teachers, our administrators who work so hard, and of course, Eric and his family. So good news.
Great news. At this time, the floor is open for public comment.
Good evening. My name is Steve Moylan. I live in the district. Just wanted, as far as writing letters goes for the foundation aid, the day of the December Board of Ed meeting, earlier in the day, Governor Hochul held a press conference with people holding large placards behind her saying, money back in your pockets. It's supposed to be for excess revenue from sales tax due to inflation, et cetera. Obviously, it's a re-election gimmick. That being said, I think it's important to just, for the members of the community to keep that in mind when writing these letters. It's not the foundation aid is at risk because the people in power choose for it to be at risk, not because of some sort of economic downturn. That's all. Just thought that was worth mentioning. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that comment because all of these decisions, as much as we try to keep politics out of the school, funding for schools is pure politics, and I appreciate that.
Seeing no one else at the microphone, we have a sympathy resolution.
Whereas the members of the Board of Education of the Lynbrook Union Free School District has learned with sorrow of the passing of Carmela DGM Batista, former employee in the Lynbrook School District. And whereas Carmela DGM Batista served as a cook for 10 years from 1972 to 1982. And whereas the Board of Education is mindful of the contributions made to our district by Carmela DGM Batista during her years of service to our community, be it resolved that the Board of Education records its sorrow, its sympathy, and the esteem in which Carmela D.G. Batista was held. And be it further resolved that the copy of this resolution be sent to the family of Carmela D.G. Batista with the hope that they will find solace and comfort in the rich heritage of good works for which she is remembered and revered.
This time, there are some donations that we would like to gratefully acknowledge and accept. $60.95 from the interest earned from the Emily Jane Gross Scholarship for the purpose of purchasing library books for Marion Street. $500 for the Lynbrook North PTA for John Halligan, Ryan Story, a student assembly at Lynbrook North Middle School on January 9th. And $500 from Lynbrook South PTA for John Halligan, Ryan Story for a student assembly at Lynbrook South Middle School on January 9th as well. At this time, I'd like to ask for a consent agenda on resolutions 2501C1 through 25010, 2501NC1 through 2501NC5, and 2501G2 through 2501G25. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Pulaski, second. Ms. Kelly, all in favor? Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Ms. Aragona, second. Mr. Murray, all in favor? Thank you. We have a work session on January 22nd to discuss programmatic changes and the continuum of special services. Our next regular meeting is February 12th. Tuesday, March 4th, again, is the budget work session, and I'd like a motion to adjourn. Ms. Aragona, second. Mr. Murray, all in favor? Thank you. Have a great night, everybody. Stay warm out there.